At the main entrance of Rajasthan's Bhangarh Fort, there is an official government warning. The Archaeological Survey of India has strictly forbidden anyone from entering the premises after sunset. Once inside, the physical scale of the site becomes clear. This was a thriving 16th-century city comprising over 9,000 stone houses, temples, and bustling markets. But if you look closely at the ruins today, you will notice a bizarre architectural detail. Every single structure is completely missing its roof. The locals explain this desolation with a 500-year-old story. According to legend, a dark magic practitioner named Tantric Singya tried to sedate the local princess Ratnavati with a cursed love potion. Recognizing the trap, the princess threw the potion onto a massive stone boulder. The spell caused the stone to fall wildly in love with the tantric, and it lunged down a hill, crushing him to death. As he died, he cursed the city to ruin. Visitors who walk through these ruins today consistently report extreme physiological dread. Tourists detail sudden freezing chills, overwhelming anxiety, and the distinct, terrifying sensation of an invisible presence following them through the empty streets. There is zero verifiable historical record proving that Princess Ratnavati or the Tantric ever actually existed. No contemporary documents, no stone inscriptions, nothing. The entire foundational lore of the haunting is a piece of fabricated local folklore. So if the ghost story driving the fear is completely fake, why do thousands of visitors experience genuine physical terror in this specific location? The answer relies entirely on science. Bhangarh is not supernaturally cursed. Instead, its unique geography and architecture have accidentally turned the ruins into a naturally occurring fear generation machine. This frequency spectrum chart visualizes a phenomenon known as infrasound. These are sound waves that fall below 20 Hz, placing them completely outside the threshold of human hearing. You cannot hear them, but your body registers these invisible waves as intense physical vibrations, which the nervous system interprets as deep anxiety. In the 1980s, an engineer named Vic Tandy accidentally exposed himself to a 19 Hz infrasound frequency generated by a faulty lab fan. He immediately suffered cold sweats, an overwhelming sense of dread, and even visual hallucinations in the corners of his eyes. Bhangarh perfectly replicates Tandy's laboratory. The crumbling, roofless stone corridors act as a massive acoustic instrument. As high winds push through the narrow, broken archways, the architecture naturally funnels the air to generate high-intensity infrasound. Adding to this, Bhangarh sits directly inside Seismic Zone 4, a high-risk earthquake region. Deep under the Aravalli Hills, constant minor earth tremors compound the generation of these low-frequency waves. The invisible ghosts that visitors feel touching them are entirely mechanical. The physical architecture and geology of the fort are literally vibrating their bodies into a state of blind panic. That explains the physical dread, but it doesn't account for the most common supernatural claim about the fort: the distinct, haunting sounds of women weeping and screaming inside the ruins at night. The ruins sit barely 50 kilometers from the massive Sariska Tiger Reserve. At night, local predators cross into the fort. The high-pitched, echoing vocalizations of local striped hyenas sound almost identical to human wailing. That blue ASI warning board at the gate is an administrative safety measure to prevent tourists from being mauled by nocturnal predators in total darkness. So the hardware of the ruins provides the vibrations, and the wildlife provides the audio. But the final piece of the illusion requires human software. In a 2008 experiment called the Haunt Project, researchers at Goldsmiths University proved that psychological suggestibility governs paranormal encounters. If a tourist spends hours reading internet ghost stories before entering a dark ruin, their brain arrives preloaded with an expectation of terror. When exposed to a cold draft or a strange shadow, the highly suggestible brain actively manufactures a supernatural experience to validate its own expectations. This connects to an evolutionary survival trait called pareidolia. This photograph of the so-called face on Mars shows exactly how pareidolia works. The human brain is hardwired to desperately search for and project human features onto completely random inanimate shapes. Inside Bhangarh, Visitors stare into the dark, ruined pillars, and their brains force them to see faces in the shadows. You combine the deep bass rumble of natural infrasound, the echoing cries of local hyenas, and a human brain actively trying to scare itself, and you get a perfect fear manufacturing system. Stripping away the paranormal leaves us with a final, brutal historical reality. If no cursing tantric destroyed the city, what force actually turned 9,000 homes into an abandoned wasteland? The true historical culprit is the Chalisa famine of 1783, triggered by a massive El Niño climate disaster. Looking at this map of 18th century North India, you can track the devastation. The drought completely depleted the region's water resources, resulting in a staggering population collapse that killed up to 2/3 of the people in the hardest-hit areas. The residents of Bhangarh did not vanish magically. They were forced to flee an unlivable environment in a desperate search for food and water. Left to the elements, their abandoned homes slowly rotted away, their roofs collapsing over centuries. We have to ask why society overwhelmingly prefers to remember a fabricated tale about a cursed princess over a catastrophic climate event. The Bhangarh illusion reveals a deep psychological need. A curse implies a villain, a motive, and a clear narrative cause and effect. It is a story we can wrap our heads around. Because the alternative is admitting that a thriving city of thousands can be casually wiped off the map by the chaotic, indifferent brutality of nature.